Good morning, everyone. You're waking up with India. Thank you so much for joining me on this episode. Today, I'll be joined by Allison David, the CEO of Claymont Community Center, who's here to discuss the work that they've committed to providing free and accessible resources for Delawareans to thrive before and during the COVID-19 pandemic. Joining me now to share more about the information and resources is Allison David. How are you?
Hi, good morning. How are you?
I'm doing well. Happy to be here. Happy to have you here. As the
Thank you.
CEO of the Claymont Community Center, I know that you are prideful in the work that you do, but take me back a little bit. Tell me how you got started in this work, Allison.
So I got started in nonprofits very early on in my career, right after college. And I think that that comes from, my family and a deep commitment to give back. I've always wanted to do this work. And I think it's about, providing people with opportunities. So it's a great place for me to do that, to share my own skills and help people move forward.
How were you led to the Claymont Community Center?
So, in a very traditional job search kind of way, I was looking for a job, and I did an internet search, and I found out about this place called the Claymont Community Center that I hadn't heard of. And when I started to research, I thought this is an unbelievable place in that there are so many things that happen here that affect the community. And I kind of fell in love very quickly.
For those that do not know a little bit of the history of Claymont Community Center, like you said, you didn't know much about it, but you ended up finding it through a job search. Give some history on CCC, as I like to call it.
Sure. Yeah, I call it that all the time. So the Claymont Community Center actually started in 1975 with a group of committed citizens who wanted to help their neighbors. And it started as a small nonprofit, and it's grown ever since. Our mission is to improve the quality of life in the community, enhance community members by addressing, the very basic human needs of wellness, belongingness, and esteem. And what that translates to is providing people with opportunities for things that will help move their families forward. So things like education, food, access to resources, and programming for people across their lifspan.
We hear that word community all the time. It's a buzzword now. Everyone is saying that word.
Mhm.
What does that word mean to you, Allison, when you hear it?
So I think community means really people coming together. And that's what this place is, a place for people to come when they need something or when they want something. So we have four signature programs. We have our senior center, we have our food closet, we have a learning center that helps people get their GED or learn English, and we have our empowered youth program. In addition to that, we have 15 building partners who operate their programs and businesses out of the center. So community means all of those things. And all of those things are part of what makes up a community. Community isn't just kids, it isn't just adults, it's everything. It isn't just nonprofits, it's nonprofits, government, and business working together. So that to me is what community means. And I think we're all struggling because COVID has really tested that.
Yeah, for sure. You have a lot of different partners that you lean on that are housed within the Claymont Community Center. Who are some of those people that are a part of your community in your village?
Yeah, sure. So our big partners are the Delaware Health and Social Services. So if people need access to government benefits, they can come here. Um, so that's one. And then also we have Newcastle County Head Start, We have a private daycare. We have businesses for mental health counseling. We have a substance abuse provider. So again, it's really, I like to call it like the most wonderful, wackiest group of organizations, because people come in here and they've come for one thing and they're like, oh, I had no idea that I could also, I could also get something else. So it's really fun. And I also want to add, we have in the back, we have a walking track, we have a football field, 2 baseball diamonds, and a dog park. So there's this element of wellness and recreation that's also part of the community center.
Wow. So you weren't kidding when you said that it covers the entire lifespan. I mean,
Yeah.
from young to old to middle age, anyone can come to this community center and kind of find something that's for them. But with everything going on, how are you able to pinpoint exactly who your demographic is? And if you don't mind me asking, who is your demographic?
Sure. So it depends on the program, right? So for our Empowered Youth program, our demographic is middle school kids, grades 6 through 8. For our seniors, it's people that are over 50. So the demographics we're serving are pretty wide. And with COVID, it's made it more challenging to stay connected to people when you can't be together.
What was the experience like at the Claymont Community Center just before the pandemic hit? What would someone expect walking through the doors of Claymont Community Center?
So I think before COVID, people came into the center to a very warm and welcoming place. People smile, people want to be here. We have paid a lot of attention over the last 3 years to make the space physically look warm and inviting.
Why is that important?
Well, people don't want to be where it doesn't look nice. I mean, places get run down, and you've got to make sure that you are keeping the space looking relevant and, again, warm and welcoming. Like in the summer, we'll have bottles of water out for when it's really hot. Or in the winter, we'll have hot chocolate out, because those are the things that make people remember a place. It's the experience of being here that people remember, and the feeling that it doesn't matter who I am, I can come to the center and I can get something I need, or maybe I can volunteer and I can give back to my community. So that's all part of the fabric of this place that is so unique.
What would you say was the biggest concern or problem that your demographic shared with you that you really wanted to focus on and get solutions for?
I think that, staying connected to people in the community in a way that is meaningful is always a challenge.
Mhm.
And for people to have the resources that they need for their families is universal. And maybe those challenges are different, but every family has them. So for some families, it's, food insecurity. For some families, it's they're struggling in jobs that don't pay enough, or they have children with challenges that they can't solve, problems they can't solve. So having those resources available for families really is the universal challenge. Is that everyone's challenged? It's focusing on each family and each individual to figure out what resources they need.
Mhm. One of the biggest ones that you spoke on, and I want you to elaborate a little bit more about, is that food closet that you talk about. Claymont Community Center, from what it sounds like, is there to provide a better quality of life for the community that you serve. And poverty and hunger is one of the challenges that I think every city in America faces. Talk to me about the importance of the food closet here at the Claymont Community Center in Wilmington, Delaware.
Sure. So our food closet, um, has been in existence since the beginning of when the Claymont Center formed. So feeding and helping our neighbors is a consistent principle that's carried through for our 45 years as an anchor in the community. We're serving about 200 families a month with additional food support. And I think that there's a misconception that the people coming to a food closet, are not employed, are not working. And that's a huge misconception. A lot of the families that we're serving are actually working, but have to make hard choices about paying, a bill versus having extra food. So the center really can help in that respect because we can help you with food and you can also, still pay your electric bill. But that's a serious reality for a lot of struggling families that, parents are working two jobs just to try to make ends meet. And I think the other thing that is pretty critical about what we're doing is not just giving food. Giving food is certainly important, but then helping them access other resources so they can work towards better jobs, better paying jobs, or even just helping their children be successful in school. Those are things that really move families out of poverty.
And I think one of the things that um, may make people not want to take advantage of these resources is the fear that they are being judged or that someone is going to know that they can't afford to do something. But what I like is that hand up, not hand out approach that you're taking. Talk to me about some of the opportunities that people can look into to get jobs and things of that nature. Share a little bit with our audience about that.
Sure. Yeah, I think you touch on something very important, that there's a stigma and an embarrassment to have to ask for help, especially to have to ask for help to feed your family. That's incredibly humbling. And there is a commitment we have to make sure that people feel dignity in that process, that at some point in our life, everyone has needed help. So I want people to know if you need to come here because you need help, that's okay. That's the first thing. And then the second thing is, we're gonna talk to you about what's your education level. Can we help you get back to school? Do you need a GED? Because by the way, over in this department, we do that and we can help you. Do you need help? Do you need access to a computer? Because maybe you don't have a computer at home and you can't do a job search. I mean, when we started, I talked about, I found this place in a regular job, a job search. If you don't have a computer to do that, if you can't write a resume, if you can't do all of those things that for some people are very easy and it's part of the resources that they have, but that's not true for everyone. So how do we help people get access to those kinds of resources so that they can move their family forward?
You brought up something very important, and it's that technological divide. Communities not being able to have access to technology. We saw that problem kind of blow up in our faces during the pandemic when schools were shut down and kids were not able to access computers. Talk to me about some of the resources that you guys put in place to help the students at this time.
Yeah, I would say that this really was in our Learning Center, the biggest challenge that our instructors faced was walking people through the technology and trying to access free technology wherever we could. In our Learning Center, we partner, because it's adult learning, we partner with Christina School District. So we've been working with them to try to get computers for everyone. In the meantime, I worked with people individually, even to access things on their phone, because what we do know is not everyone has a computer, but mostly everybody has a phone. So we can help them learn even over their phones, which, is good.
Talk to me about the ESL program that you also have. I think that that is something very necessary, again, for students. I mean, for adults, but I really want to pinpoint on children and the youth, because when the pandemic first hit, that was some of the concerns that I was hearing from our Spanish language speaking community, and that students were afraid that they were not going to be able to excel anymore because they just didn't know how they were going to be able to do their homework. You know what I mean? So talk to me a little bit about that program that was put in place before the pandemic, but how it was able to help after.
Yeah, so our ESL program, I will just say, is a very special program. So we're serving immigrants from 23 different countries. People who have come here, who are learning the language, assimilating into the culture, and our instructor just speaks English. So it's kind of magic how people learn the language. They were the first group that we, almost immediately started our virtual sessions with, and spending time on the phone one-on-one. An instructor can teach a class of 10 to 15 people, but they went very individual to help families learn the technology themselves, and then helping their children. And sometimes our instructors have to use the children as interpreters while the adults are learning. So it really, again, is very individualized in terms of how we handle each family. But it was long hours of intense work by people who are so committed to this work. I'm really proud of this staff.
What would you say is your most used resource at Claymont Community Center?
Our most used resource? That's an interesting question. I would say two things. One, the food closet. We're serving 4,700 people a year out of that program. So I would say definitely that's a big resource. And then I would also say the facility itself, coming in to meet with the providers, meet with our staff, utilize the gyms, utilize the outdoor amenities that we have. The physical space itself is a great resource for the community.
We have a population in our community that is suffering from addiction right now. What are some resources that Claymont Community Center provides for those that are looking to either recover, or those that would like to reference someone that they know who is going through addiction to a resource that could help them?
Sure.
How do you go about that?
Sure. So one of our building partners is Gaudenzia, and they provide treatment resources for people suffering from substance abuse disorder. If you go on our website, their contact information is there. So if you go to claymontcenter.org, you can look up all of our partners and you can find them. We are also, the Claymont Center is also part of the Newcastle County Crisis Response Team. So there are services for people when overdoses start to spike. We work with partners in the state to offer naloxone training. Naloxone is the life-saving drug that is used when someone overdoses. I would also say that there's plenty of access through the Department of Health and Social Services, the state service center that's here, for people needing help with substance abuse.
Do you think that there's enough support being given by the state to help with this type of crisis? Do you think that there's enough being done, Allison?
So I think that's an interesting question because one part of me thinks there's never enough, right? But I also think this isn't just the state, it's a combination of state government, local governments, nonprofits, and businesses, because this is a community issue. So if you can wrap all of those services together, if you can get people on the same team to be working towards this, if you can get parents involved when their children have, a substance abuse problem, if you can get partners in the work of prevention, working with young people, then you really start to develop comprehensive strategies. I think that there's a lot that divides us, but there's more that we can come together and solve.
Do you think there could be more programs geared toward family development that would probably help with some of these crises? I know you talk a little bit about, getting the parents and the families involved. How can a community center make the family dynamic more strong?
Yeah, when we look at what happens here, that there are services for children all the way up through seniors, you're really looking at intergenerational programming. And yes, I absolutely feel like there should be more programming around that, because that's what really, when you look at the value that older people have and what they can share with younger people, if you can tap into some of that, that's really great work. So yeah, we're always looking at how do we structure the programs that maybe the target demographic is our middle school youth, but what other services can we wrap around for the family? Because family is everything.
Yeah, the entire family is affected anytime anything happens.
Absolutely. Good or bad.
Good or bad, exactly.
Yeah.
When it's
Yeah.
good, it's great, and when it's bad, it's terrible.
Absolutely.
As I was saying just in another interview, we were speaking about the gun violence epidemic that's happening in the city of Wilmington. That doesn't just affect the individual or the victim that goes through it, but it affects the entire family. Are there any resources that the Claymont Community Center has right now that are in place to either help mitigate the violence or help with some services for the family after they've been through a traumatic experience?
Yeah, I think that while I can't point to a specific violence program, I would say that these conversations are never necessarily one issue, right? So when you look at all the things affecting gun violence, one of them is mental health, right? So there are, a ton of resources here for mental health. Prevention work, keeping kids engaged in positive activities is critical. We know that. Getting people access to education and good paying jobs are critical in that conversation. So all of those things are happening here. And there are resources for each one of those. And that all plays a part in reducing violence.
Do you plan on having any conversations with city leadership to discuss some of the things that we're talking about right now in this interview? I mean, I've heard over the election season some campaigns, people asking for solutions, some of which you brought up. You can't talk about gun violence unless you talk about poverty, unless you talk about hunger, unless you talk about
Mhm.
mental health. So, do you plan on making any arrangements for conversations like that to happen?
Absolutely. And those conversations are even happening now.
Good.
So, very locally with our representatives from this district, at the county level, and even at the state level. We're engaged in those conversations because they're so critical.
Talk to me about some of the stories of those people that you service. Are there any just stories of inspiration that we could hear at this time?
Sure. So we have this thing that we named a couple years ago when I got here. I think storytelling is really, really important, right? Because when you try to explain this place, it's hard. So,
Right.
so we took the C's from Claymont Community Center and we said, all right, whenever there's a C3 moment, because there's three C's in our name, we're going to talk about those. So I think that, I probably have a million, but I'm going to try to tell you one that is really important. So there was a man who, in his like late 40s, who had lost his job because of some medical issue that he had, and he really, really struggled. And he came to our food closet, and he actually did not come for food, but he came to volunteer. And when we found out more about his story, uh, he he said, as hard as his own story was, he felt worse for his neighbors, and he wanted to help his neighbors. And I thought that that was amazing and so selfless. Um, and so we always highlighted him because he was always giving back. And we'd say, like, Joe, you got to take some food for you too, because it's okay. Um, but that spirit to help other people, to stand outside of just your own needs, I think if anything, that explains what happens here. That explains the magic. That's a C3 moment, right? Because there's plenty of those examples of people giving back to each other and getting something out of that. I mean, that's why I do it. I get something from helping others.
That is beautiful. Thank you so much for sharing that story, Allison. As I was going through your Instagram page, well, not your personal one, but
Yeah.
Claymont Community Center's Instagram page, I saw a quote on there that said, "Community is much more than belonging to something. It's about doing something together that makes belonging better." And I thought that was a perfect quote to go along
Mhm.
with the story that you just shared.
Yeah.
Speaking about support and selfless giving, what are some ways that people in the community can contribute to the Claymont Community Center? I hear that you have a 5K virtual fundraiser coming up. Let's talk a little bit about that.
We do. We do. We're really excited. So last year we had our kickoff 5K, and we obviously had it here. This is all pre-COVID. And while we can't be together this year, we can still support the center by participating in our virtual 5K, which is actually this coming weekend, Saturday and Sunday, September 26th and 27th. You can go online, you can register. We have lots of fun swag for everyone who participates. And then over the weekend, you can run or walk. I will be doing some weird version of both. um, uh, you know, Pick your route over the weekend and run, walk, crawl, whatever. to support the center. And the proceeds from this event specifically help and support our Empowered Youth program. So we're really excited. We'll put out all of the information around where to put your pictures and your time and things like that. But we're pretty excited. And there's a lot of virtual 5Ks going on. But we really want people to know about this one because it's supporting our Empowered Youth program.
The Empowered Youth program. Let's talk about that. What's going on there?
So our Empowered Youth program is a free after-school program for middle school students. It's a combination of, educational support, so helping with homework, helping with studying for tests, that kind of thing. There's a physical aspect to it. So we partner with a great organization called Gloves Against Drugs, and they come in and do lots of physical fitness and some boxing with the kids, which they love. There's an art component because the kids just love, being creative, making things, getting to express themselves. And then sort of the social and emotional learning that happens, especially in middle school. That's a hard time for kids to figure out who they are and how to interact with people. I would say that program has been just absolutely wonderful. And it's really been affected by COVID. Obviously, with the shutdown, we couldn't see the kids in person anymore. But we immediately set up Zoom sessions with them. We did care packages to their house. We did phone calls to them and their parents. We do some limited activity outside where the kids can be really far apart. So trying to maintain that connection when they need it so much. They really, really need it.
Oh, now more than ever. And you know what else? I think that this is a good relief resource for the teachers who have to play so many roles and wear so many hats in just
Absolutely.
They have to be a counselor. They have to be a teacher. They sometimes have to, get them access to food if there's a student that they know is hungry and hasn't eaten. How can teachers share more information about the Claymont Community Center with the parents and then the students that they work with?
Yeah, I mean, we would love that. The more people can tell other people about this program, the better. Right now, it is for middle school youth, but the future, we hope we're serving kids in high school and then even younger kids so that there's really a continuum of services for youth, because once we get attached to them, we want to stay attached. And we want to be helping kids move along their lives. But for right now, there's plenty of information on our Facebook page, also on our website, claymontcenter.org. And if they call the main number, they can ask for the Empowered Youth program. We can send out specific flyers. There's tons of ways to share the information.
We talked a little bit about the Youth Empowerment Program. Now, I can't leave my seasoned folks out of the conversation. Is there any senior empowerment program or what are the resources for our seniors?
Yeah. So we have the Brandywine Senior Center, which is for active adults over 50. And that is our program that has all kinds of stuff. So first off, bingo is huge. Okay, don't mess with bingo. We have a fitness room. We have puzzles, games, art. We have an instructor who comes in that is right now doing physical fitness, like functional fitness with our seniors outside, because obviously we're adapting because of COVID. But, the senior center really is a place where seniors stay connected. And that has been so critical because we know that seniors sometimes are isolated, especially if they're lower income, right? They don't have a lot of family support, whatever it is. So being here provides that human contact. Again, with COVID, we launched immediately into weekly phone calls to our seniors, care packages to let them know that we're here and that we can help them access additional food through our food closet or other services. So, I think the thing that runs through all our programs is this human connection that we make with people. And while COVID is testing that and testing that every day, we're still being creative to keep those connections, strong, so that when things do open up or continue to open, we won't have missed a beat.
Now, I think I remember you telling me one time that there are some dancing programs. Now, my seniors, they don't want to just sit down and play bingo all day. They want to get on their feet. So talk to me about that program that you have at the Claymont Community Center.
Okay. So the seniors, there's a couple things. So seniors do yoga, fitness, and they've also done line dancing. What you are remembering is an interesting building partner that we have called the McAleer Paulson School of Irish Dancing.
Yes.
So if you have a child who wants to learn Irish dancing, this is the place they need to come.
Are you interested in accepting any other types of cultural dance? I'm thinking salsa, I'm thinking African. There's so many different types of cultural dances. Are you guys open to accepting more of those into the Claymont Community Center as well?
Absolutely. So the Irish dancing is actually, they're their own business. Nice. So they're a building partner that leases space for us. In addition to that, we're open to tons of cultural events and learning. I mean, that when you take all of that rich culture and you put it together, that's when you get, a robust community center. So yeah, I mean, we're constantly looking for partners that want to either lease space and operate here or collaborate with us for events, lots of different kinds of things. So yeah.
Are all of these programs free? Are all of these resources free, or are there some things that people have to pay for?
So it really depends on the program, whether you're talking about a program of the center or one of our business partners. So most things are program-based, are free. Depending on the business, there may be some costs, but those costs also may be offset by certain eligibility.
Okay. So what are some new upcoming events that are coming up that are free that people can participate in?
Sure. So later in October, October 29th, which is a Thursday night, we are doing a trunk or treat event for kids in the community. So we'll be releasing some information about that. We're really excited. And then we're also looking at a movie night, an outdoor movie night, if we can pull that off. And then lots of other fun stuff in the spring. I think COVID's making us really utilize the great weather as much as we can, and then we'll try to get even more creative during the winter months.
Exactly. Now I have to ask you, Allison, what are you dressing up as for Halloween this year?
I do not think that I can tell you yet. I think you have to follow us on Facebook and Instagram, and you will see what kind of killer outfit I come up with.
I love it. I am so grateful for you being here today. Thank you so much for taking the time to hang out with me and share more with our community about what you guys offer. Appreciate it, Allison.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
Thank you so much for watching this episode. You guys can continue to follow us at WITM22 Wilm for more interviews, updates, and information. Thanks so much for waking up with me, and I'll see you tomorrow morning.